So the big question is this: how do investors like us who don't have a PhD in finance or millions to start investing, how do we grow our bank accounts to build real savings in retirements and yet still have the time to do what we really love? That is the question, and this podcast will give you the answer. Awesome. Hey guys, John Wooten here. Welcome to the Stock Market Secrets Podcast. Super excited to bring you guys a pretty special episode today as we go back without the microphone. So I had the mic in my bag and I was bopping around, and the clip kind of chipped a little bit. So I'm trying to glue it back together right now. So you're getting the 100% vintage audio today, which is super exciting. But more so, there's kind of two things I want to talk about today that I think are really important. And they're things like I love social media, right? And like Snapchat or Instagram, Facebook, like whatever. They're all great, right? It's all awesome stuff. But this is like one of those messages where I just feel like it wouldn't be at place on any of those social media channels. Because when you look at, what people are doing and the viewership and just like the people that are there, they're so ridiculously different from everything I've seen to podcast listeners, right? Because with podcasts, like you're here, like you're showing dedication to your education and putting on consistent growth day over day to succeed, which is just really, really cool. And the message is like use of technology and like overuse technology, right? And see, this is like this thing where it's like, oh, don't use your phone so much. And it's like for people that are scrolling through Instagram, like no one cares, right? But it's interesting because this last week, I like every weekend, right, I'll go home she's got snagged this tuition, right? So I was meditating like last Sunday in the morning, and usually I'll leave Sunday morning, right? So it's like Sunday morning right now. And where I was going to leave, like right after I meditated, and laundry be done, all the fun stuff. So I meditated in the morning, and I finished meditating. I get on my Uber, I go to school, right? And what was cool was like I totally forgot my phone. So I put it down before I started meditating, and I meditated, and I just forgot it, right? So I didn't have my phone for like the whole last week, which was really, really interesting. And it was like something I think everyone should do. And for me, it kind of sucks not having a phone. For me, at least right now, it means that I don't have a brokerage since I'm using like Robinhood right now. And hopefully we'll see, I'm excited to kind of step up the game pretty soon here. Whoa, that car's pretty fast. So I didn't have my phone, so I couldn't put any orders in this week. I couldn't make any trades this week, which was like, I don't know. I'm working on like some of the businesses, so I guess it kind of helped me focus a little bit. But I really like the trade, so it kind of sucked. But hey, the important thing was like, so I didn't have the phone, right, all week. And like, it took about 2 or 3 days for like everyone I know to freak out and start sending me emails like, are you dead? But then after that, it's like you stop caring, right? And this is something I did a little bit ago. I decided, hey, I'm just not going to use technology for a day. Now, to a certain extent, a vast majority of the work I do is based in technology, right? So I need, computers, and I need to talk to people because, like, I got to connect with my team and make sure we're all working on the same project, getting stuff done. And then basically everything we do is based on the internet, right? So at a certain extent, cutting technology is just not feasible. But I did it for this one day, and I said, I'm going to have no technology. That was just a couple months ago. And so all I do is read, right? And have fun with family, do cool stuff, whatever I really enjoy, which is awesome. Really fun day. After that, it's like this whole new perspective on technology, because now you have this total tranquility, and you're like, wow, maybe I can live without checking my phone every 10 seconds, right? And it's something that is super, super, super powerful in conjunction with like turning off notifications. And I know for a lot of people, that's like a big ask. That's like, dude, what the heck? Why would you turn off notifications? But I remember a long time ago, I made it so that when I got a text or, social media, whatever, I would no longer get a notification. Wouldn't bing, wouldn't show me anything, just off. And what I started doing was I would check all my stuff like twice a day. So like once in the morning, once at night. Then I started checking stuff once a day at night. Then I read the 4 Hour Workweek, and really, really interesting thing there happened where Tim talks about like literally only checking your stuff once a week. And this last week, like I thought the world was gonna end, right? Because no one was gonna be able to come in contact with me. I mean, I wasn't even able to take business calls, which was like crazy, right? And then I realized that like, I wasn't able to outbound clients or anything, or call them or whatever. But like, the world didn't end, right? Nothing bad happened. Like all the business kept running, everything kept functioning, because you put in the work so that whatever you do, it can function on autopilot, and you don't have to be there 24/7. So I didn't like answer calls or texts or anything from anybody for a whole week. So I obviously didn't have my phone. And what was really interesting is like the world didn't end. And it's like so crazy to think that, because it's impossible. It's like this idea that you check everything like for 1 hour on Monday, and then you just cut it. You cut it all. And obviously, the way to do that is you hire virtual assistants, and they go through like email, stuff like that. But like this is something that I really always worked on, and it's getting the most out of a day. And really, one of the best ways to start doing that is to kind of have like a little agenda and look exactly how many hours from every single day goes to certain activities. And of course, one of those activities is, checking your phone, stuff like that. I mean, nowadays, the phones, they just like record how much time you spend on them. So it's all built right in. And so, I didn't have my phone. Obviously, I couldn't record podcasts, couldn't do social media outreach. And I remembered, right, that like I do my best work in front of a camera, not really in front of a phone. And so it was really cool because like I still had all my camera equipment and all my production setup stuff for the studio, but I was totally disconnected from like the instant gratification. I was totally disconnected from, like social media. And also just like, most of the people that would otherwise, suck away time. I've got like 15, 20, 30 people trying to call me and text me all the time, and handle their problems. That totally disappears when I say, oh, sorry, I'm not available. Or, the phone goes to voicemail, goes straight to voicemail because it's dead. And that's a really, really powerful position to be in the marketplace. And it's really, really interesting because, like, it's so cool because, like, I loved it, right? I had way, like, hours of work just cut off my plate because I'm not worrying about texting people. And like, I met probably 3 or 4 new people this past week, like, for business. And they're like, hey, how can I get in contact with you? And I'm like, hey, sorry, I left my phone on the airplane or something like that. And, but hey, I've got this book, just let me write your phone number down or give me your phone and I'll text myself. Or here's a copy of my book. I'll sign my name, write my phone number in it. Just give me a call or send me a text or something. Or to take their phone and like put in my number, snap a selfie with them, send it to myself so that I know who they are. Like, and then the world didn't end, right? There's not a single person who like didn't give me their phone number that I wouldn't have had originally, right? If I had like my phone and I was able to put it in manually. And now at the end of the week, I'm taking all the work that would have been put in up front and all the bogus and putting it in a very condensed period of time, right? So you get everything compacted to this one finite period of time at the end of the week to have the maximum impact possible because you're putting in the work so that in the future, right, you don't have to deal with it. It's not a problem because you've said, look, I'm not going to worry about it. I'm not available until, Sunday morning, Monday morning. I'm not doing the work. It's not a big deal. If you send me a text, you're going to have to wait a week for a reply. And all of a sudden, what happens is everything just gets so much more streamlined because people know that if they want to contact you, they want to connect with you, like it's going to there's a barrier to get your time is valuable, right? And for so many people, their family specifically doesn't value their time, and it sucks. It sucks. Because everyone obviously wants to have like an instant connection, but like you got stuff to do, right? And so it's really, really interesting because like family's the one place where, people can like seriously diminish the value of your time. And obviously if you're younger, then it kind of sucks because you just kind of have to do it. Your parents say, and that's where I was for a very, very, very long time. But now that like you're out there, you're generating your own income and you're like creating your own future, all of a sudden you have this control that a lot of people don't leverage. And it's this ability to totally cut out distractions and BS from your life. And 90% of that comes from these, social media or texting or whatever, trying to get a hold of you, right? And to take your attention away. And obviously, there's things that you want in your life, right? If you have like education or content or something getting delivered to your email, like that's freaking sweet. But there's like a separation between that and, once a week texting someone, hey, awesome week, how you doing? It's been amazing, really cool stuff. And like you're still fostering that relationship, which is super important, right? You're still building that relationship, but you're wasting like 10 times less time because you're getting it done in a very condensed, finite period of time, and you're not wasting. See, the biggest thing for so many people is it's not like just the time texting or just the time reading or just time responding, because what's going to happen when you start to embrace this and, take like that one time a day or one time a day, right? I had a lot of people a long time ago when I was using like Snapchat and stuff like that to, share the stock market and stock picks and stuff like that with my friends from peer group, because I thought it was freaking awesome. And I was like, dude, you guys got to trade stocks. So I would put like winning stock trades, losing stock trades, like all the stock trades in front of them, like 24 hours a day, 24/7, for like a year. And what impact did that have on people? None. Zip. Not a single person I know, except for maybe like, okay, it's like one or two people, about 2%, I'd say about 2% of the people that were, looking at that daily, like actually went and started investing in the market. And for all the work that went into it, like 2%, I mean, that's a harsh return, for all the effort that goes into it. And so I realized that like, you can keep putting in all this work, but you've really got to get in front of the right people that are in the right mindset. And so that's why with the podcast, right? Like this is so cool. Like this is the awesome place to be. But at the same time, you've got to focus, right? So you're putting in this condensed period of work instead of always reacting. So like I was talking about just a minute ago. So it's this idea that there's obviously the time that you spend, actually taking that selfie or whatever, right? But there's also that period of time where you're just like checking your phone, trying to get that dopamine hit off of that new notification that says, oh, you gotta, text or a snap or whatever, right? I see this so much with people around me, right? And they'll just constantly be looking at their phone over and over, just trying to get that little hit of dope from that notification that signifies social value and worth. And it's this fading feeling, but they just keep going back. And I used to be tied on that. I used to be stuck on that pattern, that path, and it was terrible. I hated it. Because all of a sudden I realized that like spending hours and hours on a phone for like what I think is absolutely insane. And that time it's just thrown in the garbage. I guarantee you there's never going to be a day when I'm uploading like a full training module onto Instagram. So why would you look like no one's going to do that, right? People that have like, $10,000 master classes, right? They're never going to put their content in full length on these social media platforms, right? It's like 1% of 1% is getting on there. And so like why waste most valuable asset, which is time, trying to go through the crap out there, which is what I tried to do for so long. And specifically like getting into building an online business. I realized that like you can leverage the knowledge and the growth and the success of so many people by consuming their core dedicated content on their dedicated platform. And like a membership site or a book or a course or whatever on your left. Thanks guys. And the instant that you do that, all of a sudden you're totally cutting out that crap that just doesn't actually give you any value, doesn't put forth anything. It's terrible. And with the example of, checking your phone over and over again, like what you're basically doing is just saying, look, for this set period of time, once per week, I'm going to go through all my messages. When I started doing this, just for once per day, right? I had people that were texting me and sending me social media stuff, like literally like hours and hours, like every hour of the day. And it was just ridiculous. It was like, dude, I got stuff to do. I can't keep going through all this. But my actions were not in alignment with my desires. And that's how so many people are right now, is they're caught up in the social media again. They're caught up in the dopamine. They're caught up in the emotion. And because of that, a lot of people just keep going, just keep pushing. And, text after text after text. Because the moment that you're like really quick to reply to someone is the moment that you're giving them permission to have total access to your life and your time. And that's just absolutely freaking insane. Like, if I meet someone on the street, I'm not going to give them like 10 minutes of my time every single week for the rest of my life. But that's what so many people are doing when they just sit in phone conversation. I sat like sitting, just texting for hours and hours and hours and hours. Such a waste of time. Totally unconstructive growth. I mean, the parallel between that and like in-person reality is unmatched, right? The growth, social development, the relationship building, all of that happens. Like the 90% of it that matters is all in reality. And yet so many people will waste 50, 60, 70, 80% of their time doing the crap that just does not matter. I think it's insane. When I'm sitting, in like some boring classes and like everyone basically knows that this is pretty boring and they're just on their phones, going through social media. And look, maybe I'm just an idiot, but I'm the only person that's like reading a book. And like books are absolutely freaking insane. Look, I don't have too much time today to go into why books will literally change your life. But basically you're leveraging somebody's entire life in a freaking like couple of pages. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. Everything changes when you start to leverage books. So my question is, how much growth, again, doing absolutely nothing versus absorbing like the entire knowledge and power of a book? It's insane. It's so different. And yet nobody freaking does it. Everyone's trapped in this self-fulfilling loop of going and going and going. And so here's how I broke out of it, right? So I did what I just said, right? I said, look, I'm not gonna check my messages. At the beginning, it was like once a day at a certain time. And then it turned into once a week after a couple months. And what started to happen is the people that were sending me message after message after message, they were addicted to that response, right? They were addicted to that dope hit of, oh, I got a new message from somebody. So when I stopped replying instantly, delayed gratification is so much less empowering than immediate gratification, right? So they stop texting, they stop, Snapchatting or Insta, whatever, social, whatever, right? And the messages stop coming in, the craft stopped coming in. And all of a sudden, by acting the way that you want to be treated, you start to train people to treat you the way that you desire. Just through your actions, not by your statements. This is a very, very powerful concept. If you reply instantly to every single text you get, people are going to text you more. It's just a matter of fact. But if you wait a week to get back to somebody, they're going to realize that, hey, I better only contact this guy if it's some important shit. And if it is, I tell people, call me, right? I'll take a call because I know that once you get into that state, it might take me like a minute to write out a little sentence, but it takes me 4 seconds to say one. So I know that if I get people to call me, or I call people, if I need to talk to people, I call them, you're going to get so much done much faster. It's a very, very powerful thing because so many people are afraid to just freaking pick up the phone and push the call button. It's ridiculous. And so by doing this, you're going to weed out a lot of the really timid friends in your group or, connections in your business space, whatever it is, that just aren't willing to pick up the phone and get it done. Now, obviously, if you're in the middle of something, that's that. But usually I can pick out 2 or 3 or 4 minutes to get something done. If, it's somebody I know and they have a serious thing to talk about. And what's really interesting is now you have people that connect with you for a very specific purpose. I had this one guy call me, he's the freaking coolest guy ever, right? He gives me a call. We have a 7-minute conversation about how we're going to launch this new product, and it's going to be freaking coolest thing ever, and just finalizing the details on it. Very, very, very significant collaborative communication. And it's something that like he couldn't have done by himself. I couldn't have done by myself. We needed each other. It probably would have taken about an hour if we tried to go back and forth on email or on Slack or whatever. But with that short little phone call, it's all done. It's all good. That's a really, really powerful, powerful, powerful state to be in. And it's something that so many people don't focus on. I hate it because the instant you start to free up extra time, like now you can dedicate that to creating assets in your life that are going to keep paying you over and over and over, no matter how you work. This morning I woke up and I'm talking to my bud, and he's like, hey, what's this big computer thing do? And I'm like, it makes like $40 a day. It just kind of like sits there and gets plugged into the wall. And he's like, what? And I'm like, yeah, dude, it's an asset. Something I've had for years. And the way you like get there is by focusing and saying, look, like it wasn't that difficult for me to do that. It took 7 or 8 months out of my life. And I said every waking moment I have, specifically like after cross country, at night I'm going to come home and I'm going to build this asset. That's exactly what I did. Freaking ton of work. But I'll tell you what I didn't do. I wasn't focusing on, texting people. I was building it. I was putting it together. I wasn't putting my energies and efforts on crap that didn't matter and follow up with non-clients. Focusing 100% on what I needed to get done. Now, this brings up a really interesting point. I'm working on this seminar right now about social skills, My Little Pony, and just tons and tons of information that has radically shifted my life and everything I'm doing. And I'm super, super excited. I'm getting through it right now, and then I'm going to present it, and we're going to have this huge event. It's going to be awesome. And there was this one story where, it's ponies, right? So she is Twilight. She's got herself, she's in her castle, getting stuff done, whatever. And her brother comes home with his wife and their kid. And they're like, hey, we're super freaking tired. You take care of our kid. And she's like, yeah, I'll be the best dad ever, you bet. And so they go through the day, and, she's freaking busy, right? So she is going through her work, and she's trying to fit in this secondary surprise that just got launched on her from her family. And what's really interesting is, like, basically she shouldn't have been doing this, but she would, play with the kid and then go to a meeting late, and then go and play with the kid, and then go to a meeting late. And while they were at the meeting, the kid would just kind of like sit there, right? And it sucked because obviously you got a young kid, and they really, really wanted to like play and have fun and do what they love. And there was this one scene that really, really struck a chord with me, and it was really interesting. So Twilight, she's talking to the school teacher, and she's like, hey, we need these books at the library. And she's presenting, all these kids' books, and they're talking about how this is all going to work out, and it's going to be awesome, and it'll be the perfect way to start up the new baby library stuff. So they're going through the books, and while they're speaking to each other, this baby starts crying, right? It's whining. Because obviously, it's lonely and it's not getting attention. That makes it sad. And so what happens? Well, what happens is really, really interesting. So the kid starts crying and whining. And then, for those of you guys who haven't seen the seminar, just aren't a fan of MLP, there's this little dragon guy that follows around Twilight. He's Spike. And so Spike, this little guy, he gives the baby this, this little toy, right? And baby starts to play with the toy. Super happy, super excited, and they're having fun with it. She's like, yeah. And so she goes on. So Twilight goes on with her meeting, right? And they keep going, talking. But then, she drops the toy. She's whining, she's crying, she gets pissed off, and the little baby, she's got wings, right? So she flies up, and she starts, she's got like magic, whatever, to just draw all over like the whiteboard. They were in a classroom and just scribbling out. There was like tons and tons and tons of work on the whiteboard. It was just a lot of writing. And so she scribbles all that crap out and just starts drawing pictures of like herself with her aunt Twilight and Spike. And so she draws this massive picture of them being together as like a happy family and having fun together. Twilight finishes her conference. She turns around. She sees this crap on the board and she's like, whoa, right? And instead of acknowledging it for what it was, right? Instead of saying, wow, that's really nice. This kid just wants to be with family and have, attention, right? Obviously, be paid attention to. She's like, no, oh, I'm so sorry about this mess, right? And so she instantly erases like the entire whiteboard. Like, oh my God, this teacher pony, she was so pissed, dude. Because like there was so much writing on the whiteboard. It was just ridiculous. There was a lot of stuff. She erases like everything. She's like, I'm so sorry about that. And the kid sees this, and the kid is like heartbroken, right? Because she just spent, she put up her effort, her time, her energy, and she made this incredibly nice message to her aunt and, Spike. And it's like this really nice family gesture. And Twilight just erases the whole thing right in front of her. Just absolutely devastates her because the work she put forth and the family love she desired was just torn away right in front of her eyes. It was awful. So sad. And then they rush out of there and they leave. And the teacher's kind of pissed because like she's got to write everything again with like chalk in her mouth. And it kind of sucks. It takes forever. But I saw that and I was thinking, at the end of the episode, obviously they reunite and they're super happy together. And I'm talking about how they had such a great time together. And the end of the day, obviously, they played together. And so the baby comes back and hugs her aunt and everyone has a great, great time. And they're all, lovey, whatever, right? But that was only when there was a very, very, very condensed, dedicated period of compassion and of love between the two. And while, Twilight was out doing her business and her meetings and the craft that had to get done, none of that was happening, right? She was pissed. She was so upset. She was so sad because it was like going 50%. You can't go 50%. That's why it sucks to see so many people that are going 50% of their lives, right? They'll be walking somewhere on their phone, texting, calling, checking social media. Like if I'm going somewhere, I'm either speed walking so I can get some strong glutes for track season, or like I'm running or taking a bike or something like that. That's going to increase my speed. Recently it's been speed walking because you got to beef up. But like I'm not going half-ass. You go 100%. Or obviously if you're walking like with someone and you're talking with people, it's like conversation, then you go 100% on that conversation, right? You're not focusing on something else or putting effort towards something else. Like it's 100% focus on that specific event. And yet so many people just go 50%. And this example shows exactly what happens. This kid is whining, crying, destroying things, so upset, so sad, and so lonely. When her aunt goes 50%. She's devastated. It's literally almost worse than leaving her alone in a room. It's very, very, very similar. Misbehaving. Terribly upset, crying. And yet, when the aunt, when Twilight goes 100%, she spends time directly dedicated to growing with this kid. All of a sudden, they're having the best time ever. They're having amazing memories made together. They're having a great time. Why does that happen? That happens when you go 100%. Never happens when you go 50%. And you'll see it throughout the episode. All the periods of growth occur when, like anyone, think about anything in your life. Like, when are you going to grow? Ever. Is it when you're half-assing something or going 100%? Now, a lot of times I'll be doing work on the companies if I'm in like a boring class or something. And when I do that, I have to make a very distinct division between the crap that matters and the crap that doesn't. And it's the same thing with this situation right here, right? Like Twilight, she's focusing on the crap that matters in her life. And for her, that's getting her work done in certain periods of the day. And as soon as she starts to like divide her focus, it just doesn't work. It doesn't happen anymore. For me right now, like I'm biking, but like I am fully focused on creating this content because I think it's super freaking powerful. And obviously I don't want to get run over because that kind of suck. But like I'm pretty freaking dedicated. I talk with my hands. I got one hand on the wheel, one hand just screaming at people. Why? Because I'm going 100%. Can't go half-ass. I remember I hate seeing some of my older like content because it's like I'm going half-ass. Can't go half-ass. Can't do it. It never works. I remember I was working at Subway and I was thinking, about like when would I get tips, right? And I was always like, I was like trying to get more tips, right? And I would get like 0 tips one day and I might get like $10 in tips another day. I mean, people at Subway, obviously not, whatever, right? And so I'm trying to figure out like what am I doing that gets me a tip this time? It doesn't get me a tip this other time. What was interesting is like basically every time like we ever got tips ever, it was when I was working with Tina. And it was interesting because like I didn't see myself acting any differently with or without working with Tina. And Tina was just really, really nice, like 40-year-old lady. And she was awesome, super cool. Okay. What was the difference? I realized looking back now, like the difference is Tina went all in. Tina was going hard every single time she came in. It was crazy because I was trying to go hard, trying to go 100% too. But I hadn't really mastered that. I was still trying to develop social skills at the time, right? I didn't have really solid social skills, speaking skills, talking to people, getting in front of people. But Tina, obviously much more life experience, like she had that down, right? And so she was able to go all in and make it happen. And the difference was insane. It was paramount. I would get like no tips myself, but then when I was with Tina, it brought much more social value. On your left, thank you guys. Like 10 times more social value, right? And so because of that, obviously it brought more results into the marketplace and we got a ton of extra, tips, right? Because people are recognizing that like, wow, this is freaking cool. And I started thinking about that and comparing it to, how I was working. And I realized like I was going as hard as I could. But I just wasn't at that level where I was able to put in 100%. Just hadn't developed the skill. And I see a lot of people are at that point where, they're really, really, really trying to like curb technology or cut social media, stuff like that. But they just don't have the skills to do it. And that's okay. It's okay. It comes with time. And so like wherever you are right now, like think like, what would happen if maybe I just spent the next 4 hours with my phone powered off? All right. What if I spent I just spent a week without it powered off and I'm super excited to do this again for a month because like there's so much liberty and freedom in your life. It's insane. Now, obviously, if you got crap to do, you got crap to do, But like for a long time, if I wasn't able to just go cold turkey, what I would do is really interesting is I would just take it and I would delete like Facebook or, all the social media apps that were crap. And I would keep like podcasts and email and the stuff that kind of like mattered for business. And obviously calling people and texting, specific contacts, stuff like that. And what was cool was like I was using my phone for half the time as before. And I was getting twice as much done. Because look, like the activities that you're trying to do are going to fill like the time spots that you give them in your life. And so by narrowing down your options of what you can do with the time you have, I'm going to make this late, guys. It's going to be the freaking coolest thing ever. Woo! Oh, man. All of a sudden, everything is totally different because focusing on what matters and cutting stuff doesn't. And that's literally the key. Like, that's it. Like, you don't get anything else from this. It's the 80-20 principle. That's all it is. The instant you can identify that 20% that matters and only focus on it, like think about it like this, okay? If I push one button and I get 10 green beans and push another button, I get 2 green beans. And I'm going crazy one day, and all I want are green beans. But I only have like 30 minutes to push buttons. Like, which button? Assuming I can only push one button, you think I'm gonna push? I push the one that gives me 2 green beans, 10 green beans. So many people won't take that first 1 or 2 or 3 minutes to figure out which button gives them more green beans, which one has a higher reward. And so they'll split their efforts equally, and they'll average out 6 green beans. Instead of taking just that little bit of time at the beginning to figure out a plan of action so they can get that full reward if they desire by just putting in that extra effort at the beginning to do it the smart way. That's a really powerful concept. And that single idea is really the fundamental principle behind building assets, right? It's this idea that you put in just a little bit extra work at the beginning. You know, like right now, and for the past 4 or 5 years, and I'm not saying you have to do this. I know a lot of people, they aren't in a position to do this. But I've been going hard pretty much like 16 hours a day, every single day. And because of that, I've had massive, massive results in the marketplace. And I've been absolutely crushing it, putting out what I desire into the world. It's been awesome. It's been crazy. Why does that happen? It happens because of a very condensed period of time. Like, you look at the total lifespan, right? Like, I plan to live to be 150 years old. And so for me, like 10 years, 15 years, like that's 10% of my life, right? And so, like, think about what you can do with 10% of your life, right? Like, if you could put in enough work in that first 10, 15, 20% to, feed you and take care of you and nurture yourself, your family, and your kids for generations to come, for that other 80%, like, how massive would that be? How significant would that be for everything to finally be free of that trap where you're going every single day to that? Like, my worst fear is having to work for someone for something I'm not passionate about. That's terrible. I hate it. And so that's like one of the things that just pushes me. Because I never want to get stuck there. And so that's kind of one of the really powerful ideas and concepts behind putting in the work now so that you reap the rewards later. And so that you can go wherever you desire, at your will, at your pace, to go for those overarching long-term goals. Because you're able to cut out what doesn't matter from your day and fill it with things that do matter. Think, right? If I'm running out of things to do for a day that are going to get me closer to my overarching daily goals, or my weekly goals, my monthly goals, or my yearly goals, what am I going to do? I'm going to get back on track and not spend 4 or 5 hours on social media. I remember a very long time ago, before I really understood the power of this concept, I would get home from school every day. I was in like middle school. And maybe some of you guys are in a position like this. Like, I basically had, no control whatsoever over my life. And it was terrible because I just didn't have any concept of where I wanted to be or what to do. And that's where a lot of people are right now. They're trapped in a self-fulfilling loop. And so what I would do is I would get home at night, I'd do like work, I'd go with friends, stuff like that. But, I'd sit there at the end of the night, I'd spend like 3-4 hours just sitting on my phone. And it was terrible. It was awful. Because you're not getting your goal. You're not getting anything. It's nothing. It's zip. And yet so many people are doing that spread throughout their day, and they're just destroying their time like I used to be. It was awful, right? Because, like, to a certain extent, you learn stuff, but that's it. You're done after a point. And then it's just time going by and by and by. The most valuable time you have is the time you control in its entirety. And I was just throwing it away. And that's what so many people do. And it's just awful. So please take this message to heart and really figure out what's that time for you that's going useless, that's not bringing you closer to those desires. And how can you move past it? How can you keep growing? And what needs to happen so that you can free that time up in your day and focus on that 20% that's going to yield you the results that you desire, and totally cut off the other crap. It's awful. It's terrible. And then obviously the next step from this is hiring people. I mean, it's just ridiculous, but like every single person I meet that ever, like if I meet them and they're like, yeah, I'm hiring, I need people. Those are the most productive people. Those are the most worthy people. I know this is kind of loud, but I want you guys to understand this. This is so important, so huge, okay? Why do you think they're trying to hire people? Why am I hiring people, right? Free up time and put it towards the things that I'm best at, I can have the biggest impact on, and that matter the most for myself, for my companies, for everything. And as soon as you can focus your time and create it out of thin air, just by cutting crap that does nothing for you, or very little for you. Here's one last concept I want you guys to leave with, okay? Remember I left Subway. A lot of people were like, what the heck, dude? Why are you doing that? And I'm like, dude, if I'm trading stocks, I'm making X much per hour, on average, based on what I was doing at the time. Now, obviously now, I've been starting to think a little bit more like lifetime value, but just stay with me for this, okay? If I'm making X much per hour with my investments, okay? And at Subway, I can get paid, at the time, I think it was like 0.1x per hour. So every hour I spent with my investments was like 10 times, what I was making there, which is minimum wage. And it got to the point where it was like, dude, what I'm doing right now, like, there's no way if I was going to do what I'm doing and create the results I'm creating, I would have to work 30 or 40 hours every single day at Subway to get the same result. Obviously, that's freaking impossible. But so many people, they have this wage that they can create. They have this income they can generate, this value that they bring to the marketplace. And they're making X much per hour. And then they'll spend their time mowing their yard, like clipping their yard trimmings. And they don't like it. Obviously, if you like it, it's a different story, but they hate it. And so they'll spend their time cleaning, doing crap that is worth, about 1/10 of X. So they're doing crap that's 1/10 of X. And one of the craziest examples of this, this guy, he owns like an entire real estate condominium. And he's renting the whole thing out, making literally like millions and millions and millions and millions a year, okay? And you see him out in the front cutting the grass. Like, where do you think this guy is going? What's his time valued at? His time is worth like 100x. And he's doing the jobs that are worth 0.1x. Why? Because so many people are cheap with their money, but lavish with their time. And it's insane. So please, realize that, there's crap you're doing. There's crap I'm doing still. Any aspect of your life, think about the stuff you're doing that's just totally, totally worthless compared to your peak ability, and figure out if you can make 3 times, 5 times, 10 times as much doing what you love versus the crap that just doesn't matter but needs to get done. Figure out a way to hire people. Right now, I'm trying to figure out how I can get people to take all my packages from the post office to my dorm, because it's 100 pounds of books coming in all the time. And that's a freaking heavy. It takes an hour. I don't want to do that. So what do? You have to focus on finding the people that are going to get it done and are willing to work for, maybe it's a lot to them, but not to you, right? So as soon as you can identify what your time's worth, if anything you're doing has a net value of the marketplace less than the value of your time doing what you love at your peak ability, cut it. All right? I've never made $1 texting any of my friends. Friends like just for fun, like saying, hey, what's up? Hey, dude. Or just sending Snapchats or social media, stuff like that. It just doesn't matter. Sending streaks on Snapchat has never made me a penny. Never. And so sometimes people, they'll literally be doing things that make them 0x. It makes them no money. And they could be spending their time making X. But it's getting wasted. It's getting thrown away. Terrible. Terrible. So I got to go, guys. But it was a really, really, really powerful message today. I hope you guys take it to heart and start to apply it with what you're doing. There's a lot of really, really good gold in here. So thank you guys so much for listening. Go out there. Have an amazing day. Crush it. And I will see you guys in the next episode. Thanks so much. Bye. Want more stock market secrets? If so, you'll get your free copy of my best-selling book, 9 to Noon. You can get your free copy plus $11,176 of unannounced bonuses it took me years to uncover completely for free at 9toNoonSecrets.com. Inside 9 to Noon, you'll find the top 38 secrets you can use to double your portfolio every 2 years and make upwards of 10% per trade daily.